the Supreme Court. Um, I was gonna say y'all's homies, but God, God forbid, God forbid. Maybe Sonia. Maybe that's a maybe. But anyway, the Supreme Court actually weighed in on the issue of Title 42. Title 42, the Trump era immigration policy that prevented people who were seeking asylum, specifically focusing on those coming in from the southern border, precluding them from coming over and proceeding with their asylum claims based off some health protocols pertaining to COVID. Which again, America it does not care about the COVID, and I'm sure America as an entity, as a record label, does not care about the COVID as it pertains to the undocumented folks trying to come across the border and make a new home for themselves. So the Supreme Court weighed in, and in a 5-4 decision, they decided to keep the Trump era policy in place, Title 42. And I'm sure the Biden administration was like, darn, darn, oh, we tried, guys. Who? We gave it a good shot. But the Supreme Court has said, we can't do nothing about the bullshit. Biden administration could do something about this. They could. So anyway, how did the Supreme Court even come to be as a part of this? So I think it was 19 attorneys generals from border states wanted to appeal a lower court's decision to get rid of Title 42 because the lower court judge, I think, described the policy as capricious and outdated at this point. As I previously stated, the United States has moved onward from COVID and does not seem to be concerned about the COVID. So to preclude people from coming over seeking their asylum claims based off of COVID doesn't seem correct, does it? No, it doesn't. So that is a continuation of what we have seen, the continued cruelty and inhumanity and blatant apathy shown towards migrants trying to get to this country. Again, I keep saying from the southern border because I feel like motherfuckers is just walking over from Canada, just all willy nilly, and ain't nobody paying attention. Everybody looking at down in Mexico, ain't nobody looking at these Canadians and other folks. I'm guessing European because I feel like white people have the best disguise. That white skin, nobody questions white people. They're like, oh yeah, they must be hiking. they must be hiking here along the U.S. Canadian border. Hey, you guys lost? You need some help? You need provisions? We'll help you out. Did you guys see the pictures coming from DC? I believe was this Christmas Eve. Okay, so first of all, we know that we have been dealing with a very severe weather system that has impacted the eastern 2/3 of this country, where people in Texas experienced record temperatures. We saw water bursting in, water pipes bursting in people's homes. I don't think the grid hold up in Texas? It was really wild to see Governor Greg Abbott continue to send migrants by the busload, by the thousands, to northern cities like Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, Texas, infrastructure crumbling in front of us, the grid crumbling in front of us, and Greg Abbott still made time to be racist and mean. Isn't that funny how that works? Like, no matter what, the racists will stay true to form. Even while shit is going wrong for them and their constituents, they will make sure that the cruelty remains the point. And I want us to take a look at some pictures over the holiday weekend outside of Vice President Kamala Harris's house. I'm sure you guys saw this. This made the rounds on social media, but I think it's important that we need to see this because, truthfully, it's Republicans and Democrats. This is another bipartisan issue in which the parties stand firmly united on their intention to do very little to improve the situation, to make it a more streamlined process for people to come to this country secure whatever work documents that they need. And truthfully, if the folks want citizenship, there needs to be a very clear and easy path to citizenship that does not involve a bunch of bureaucracy and fines and all of this shit. Like America, if the capitalist system is to continue as it intends to, which we hope it falls down, it falls down and busts its head wide open. But if capitalism wants to continue, capitalism needs to import some workers because America's labor force has decided to go in a different direction. So I mean, if capitalism wants to continue to keep capitalizing, it seemed to me that they would make it easier for these folks to come over here. But no, no, these people are a means to an end, and people like Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis are using these folks just really in the most disgusting and inhumane ways, sending people thousands more miles away from where their initial point of entry was, to make them try to figure out what their arrangements are going to be in a place even more foreign to them than, I suppose, South Texas or even South Florida. But let's take a look at this clip. I think this was shot by journalist Noah Gray. And mind you, the temperatures in Washington, D.C. over this past weekend, cold. And I mean, unusually cold. I mean, even unseasonably cold. The meteorologist around here told us that these were the coldest temperatures. This was the coldest Christmas DC has experienced in over 30 years. Temperatures were in the single digits. Wind chills were fluctuating between the negatives and the single digits. I mean, it was unbearably cold. So keep that in mind as you see these pictures of migrants being offloaded at a bus in front of Kamala Harris's house on Christmas Eve. People were not prepared for these temperatures. And most of them were just there with the items that they had crossed the border with, which you can imagine would have been very, very little, and definitely not prepared for the elements. But there is a group of mutual aid organizations, one of them here in Washington called Sanctuary DMV. They have been picking up the slack where government, federal and local, have truly just fallen down intentionally at this point on the job. Okay, now here's the thing, and I don't even like to fucking agree. I do not like to agree with conservatives, and I'm not agreeing with them per se. But let me say this: so I can understand. First of all, I mean, this is an issue. People need housing. People need to be provided for. They need food. They need the opportunity to connect with their loved ones and their communities that are already established here in the United States. They don't need further impediments to that. But there has to be some sort of federal intervention here to make sure that gets facilitated in an efficient way. Because at the end of the day, what I think both Democrats and Republicans need to acknowledge, and I think they do understand this, but the way that they approach this problem, it doesn't seem as if they do understand it, is that these people gonna keep coming. Okay, these people are gonna keep coming. A lot of them are going to keep coming. There is no keeping them out. There is no denying them entry. They're going to come regardless. So it seems to me you need, if you want to set up, if you're so concerned about national security down at the southern border, then get your shit together. Shit, start processing people. Start taking names. Start finding out who is coming through the border. If it's really a national security issue, because we know this Title 42 shit is some bullshit. Because again, we know, especially them down at the southern border, those in power, those holding elected office. I'm being specific here. We know they don't give a goddamn about COVID. Okay, they stopped giving a damn about. Wasn't it the Texas? Was it the lieutenant governor or was it the attorney general? I think it was the lieutenant governor. The he has a name. he has a famous name. Somebody else shares his name, like a basketball player, like a famous. Oh Jesus! And I'm not even chat because I need to log into the chat so you guys can coach me through my brain farts. But anyway, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, don't you guys remember in the months immediately after the lockdowns began in 2020, he got on television trying to tell Texas seniors to sacrifice themselves for the economy. Like what? He was trying to tell old folks to go out in the economy and sacrifice themselves for the economy. So we know Texas don't give a goddamn about COVID. I'm guessing the same is the similar attitudes with Arizona and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get logged into the chat here. So it's the cruelty. It is the meanness. It is the intentionality to make sure that people remember that they are other, that they are not welcome, even though the only reason these folks keep on coming is because some white person keeps hiring them for shit. Somebody white keeps saying, keeps rolling by a fucking Home Depot parking lot every morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. And some white person keeps giving these people work. And listen, I'm for the folks being here. Let me be clear. I have no issue. There is no, I'm trying to even think of what scenario could I ever have an objection to immigrants or migrants coming to this country. None. The more the merrier. Spicy this fucking unseasoned country to fuck up. Please. Spice it up. Bring all of your flavorful foods and your syncopated percussion music. Come on. All of this sounds like improvements to me. I have no objection to the immigrants, migrants. The more the merrier. Come forth. Let's get this party started. I'm still trying to find my doc. Give me a second. Thank you guys. Okay, I'm in the chat. Woo! There goes everybody. Hey, Anna. What's going on, Latif? Hey, Cape Socialist. Ask who. I'm so glad to see you guys in here. Appreciate you. Oh, we got a decent little crowd in here. Okay, cool. So, and there's a number of stories, actually. I didn't pull them because it was getting kind of long. My doc was getting kind of full. What's up, Silberg? Silberg, tell me what the weather was like in Boston. Crazy, right? Oh my gosh. And much empathy and condolences going out to the people in Western New York, especially up there in Buffalo. 3 dozen reported deaths so far, likely to probably be more. Just because a lot of people have not had their power restored, so we don't know what that situation is going to be. Oh my God, I just keep thinking about the unhoused people across this country in places where the temperatures plunged. And America's just not up. I can't see that's bad framing. I was gonna say America's not up to the task. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. America just dropped $850 billion in the latest budget to go to the Pentagon. America could more than house people, is over capable of housing people and making sure that our immigration system works for folks, particularly the immigrants, right? But this is willful intention. This is the folks in charge like to see everything stymied and choked up and not working, because it's not their lives that are at stake. It's not them that are being shuffled around the country and having all this animosity directed toward them, not only from regular fucking racists, but from those in power. Like Greg Abbott's got some fucking nerve. So does DeSantis. But I want us to talk about. I want us to switch gears and go, if we could, to a story that I saw coming out of France. And this is maybe a couple weeks in the making. Again, I'm at a tad bit of a disadvantage because my doc is not ouvre en front devant moi. Let me see if I can get my studs, pick up my French here. I'm about to drop my French on y'all. Y'all not ready. Y'all not ready for it. Fellas, close your ears because you might cream in your panties when you hear me start talking this French. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay to admit it. You can't deny it, baby. I'm about to make you creamy. Shh, 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 shh. Stop laughing. Stop laughing. Get off. I'm sorry. Again, I'm highly inappropriate. Let me tighten back up, because this is a very serious story I'm actually about to tell y'all about coming out of France, because there is as much animosity towards migrants in Europe as I'm sure you all know, right? In Italy, I think it was off the coast of Sicily. This was maybe a month ago. Well, I would say, I'm saying it's a month ago, but really it's an ongoing story. It's a story that happens all the time, where a boatload full of people trying to cross the Mediterranean into Europe after the election of the new right-wing Italian prime minister, they were refusing to let these people get off the boat, right? I actually need to follow up on that. I don't even know what happened. I'm not even sure what happened with that. But that is a very common story for people trying to enter into Greece and into Italy. And I guess I don't know, do they go like that in France? But regardless, there was a racist attack on Kurdish folks outside of a cultural center. This was in Paris, I believe, Paris proper. And this person who made this attack, so far identified as William M., killed 3 Kurdish immigrants. And afterwards, some of the community took to the streets to do it like they kind of, it seems like they only do it like this in France, where I mean, I think we tear shit up sometimes. No, 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 no. In Paris, they tear shit up. Okay, they tear it up. I wanted to take a look at these clips of people in the streets in an uprising, marking the murder of these 3 Kurdish migrants. And then there was some new information that was revealed about the person who is alleged to have killed them. But I wanted to take a look at these scenes from Paris in the streets. Let's take a look. I think Goodwill. Stunning scenes there from out of France. Will, if you could pop up that that French language article for me. This is mediapal.fr. And the headline reads: On avait la trouille de le centre culturel Keld, une attaque au sabre contre des exils passés sous silence. Now, what does that translate to? It says a year before this attack, 1 year before this accused assassin, William M., 1 year before this attack, this person, or on the Kurdish Cultural Center, the attacker actually used a sword, or a saber, against a migrant camp on the outskirts of Paris, if I have that, au Parc de Bercy, in December of 2021. The victims were kept in custody. Now, mind you, the victims of this sword attack, French authorities kept the victims in custody for 48 hours, did not allow them to receive treatment for that time, barely interrogated, right? They were hardly interviewed. And one of the victims of this sword attack by this alleged murderer in France was expelled from the country, and the others were fined. Like, now we know America behaves waywardly to non-white folks and immigrants, people coming into the country. We learned all this from our mama and daddy over there in Europe. Okay, from France, from England, from Italy, Spain, Portugal, all the OG colonizers. America took all of its cues from them, and it's the same. It is the same. And the ways in which the racism manifests itself, both in state policy and in the individual so-called vigilante actions of people that call themselves trying to fix the immigration problem by murdering people, right? By taking out their racist, white supremacist, violent, colonizing notions on innocent folks, completely minding the business. I mean, this is part and parcel. And and circling back to this decision that came out of the United States Supreme Court today to continue to deny thousands of people waiting on the other side of the southern border, deny them access to come and get and make their asylum claims. Every part about that is unconstitutional. If you want to look at it from a law perspective, I'm hoping that, the ACLU, and I can totally see the ACLU or some sort of other immigration policy, pro immigration policy organizations filing suit. And well, fuck, I guess this is the Supreme Court, goddamn it. So, I mean, fuck. Something has to happen here. The Democrats need to do something because we know that all my suggestions, I shoot them down in my head like 2 seconds after I say them because I know that the Democrats are not going to do shit about the situation. That they've lost control of the House. They have a slim margin in the Senate. Biden is widely unpopular, and this is not even his wheelhouse any fucking way. He and Barack Obama deported a record number of undocumented folks. They was caging people before Trump started caging people, started putting kids in cages. That was Obama and them. Obama and Biden and them. Doing that from way, way back. So what can we do? I am going to link, and I know you guys say, Kim, you lie all the time and say you're going to link. No, because this is important, I am going to link this into the show description right after the show. I know. Stop calling me a liar. Stop it. I can hear y'all in the chat. Just saying, Kim, shut up. You're such a liar. But no, because Sanctuary DMV actually posted mutual aid links to organizations in Philadelphia, in Chicago, and in New York, in addition to Sanctuary DMV's links. Because again, we got to help ourselves out here. And as far as I'm concerned, these migrants, these immigrants, these are our neighbors. Like, these are our folks. These are mostly black and brown people walking across that border, getting put on buses by DeSantis and Greg Abbott and sent further into parts unknown, unprepared with no access to services whatsoever. It is regular ass people in these northern cities that are coming together to show up when these buses pull up and make sure that these folks have clothes, that they have food to eat, that their children are tended to. There's a lot of small children on these on these bus rides, and if and guys, the number is staggering. I think Sanctuary DMV. I'm sorry. We'll play that other clip. That I think it's from the fuck. I don't remember where it's from. It's a local DC news outlet. I snatched it. The reporter's name is Evan something. Evan K. You got that clip? If you got it, go ahead and roll that for me, please.
The goal is really to dump people, in a place where it will make a big political impact. And that's really my point, is the cruelty is the point.
Tonight we're hearing from Bianca Vasquez, an organizer for the Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid Network. They were the group that jumped into action on Christmas Eve when buses started to arrive.
3 buses, about 140 people.
The migrants were dropped off in front of the Naval Observatory on Mass Ave, the home of the Vice President. Amy Fisher, also from the Mutual Aid Network, was there to greet those migrants in that 18-degree weather.
These buses were actually initially intended to go to New York and then shifted to D.C. because of the weather.
Most folks are coming with what they can carry, so people are arriving without adequate clothing for the cold weather.
And this is not an isolated incident. Just days ago, Texas Governor Greg Abbott stated that they have sent some 8,700 migrants to D.C. since April. They've also sent thousands to New York City, Chicago, and Philadelphia. In a Thursday press release, Abbott pointed the finger at the White House, writing in part, quote, Texas is having to step up and take extraordinary efforts that have never been undertaken by any state in the history of the United States to secure our border. Vasquez says that D.C. is not the final destination for many of these migrants, and many have already been redirected by bus or plane. But for those who are staying, she says they've been placed in hotels. She says over $400,000 has been donated to their network to help these migrants.
The $400,000 that we have raised has showed that our local communities want to do that. They want to welcome people. They want to provide support. They want to say that immigrants are welcome in our communities.
Now, to deal with this influx of migrants, the city has taken drastic action. Back in September, Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a public emergency and created the Office of Migrant Services, allocating an initial $10 million for the program. But Vasquez telling us tonight that they're urging the city to go even further, offering long-term services to every migrant that needs it. Reporting in Northwest tonight, this is Evan Kozloff, WUSA 9.
All right. Yep. And that is correct. DC's rolling in money. I would imagine, I don't know what New York's budget situation is, but I'm sure New York is doing all right. They got enough to bankroll the cops to the tune of $10 billion a year. New York probably doing all right too. Chicago probably doing all right too financially, when they're not, dumping all their money into policing. Yeah, these cities got the money in order to receive these people, to provide permanent offices of services for them. To me, $10 million from the District of Columbia is a drop in the bucket. DC got way more money than that they can spend, because they're trying to, again, give it all to the cops. Why don't you give it to the people that are most in need? So just giving you just another perspective, and just a reminder that this country, that so-called founded on Judeo-Christian principles, it is in no way aligned with Jesus. Okay, there is nothing Jesus-like about the way that the American government, and fuck France, and the way the France government to bitch ass England, to all of the empires, all of them, and it's just bizarre to hear very ungodly people claim to believe so much in God, but never would they do the things that Christ embodied during his short time here on earth. Okay, now I'm not a religious person per se, but I believe that Jesus existed. I believe Jesus even did all the shit that they said Jesus did. I do believe that. But I also know that, a lot of people that claim to be faux Jesus do the opposite of what Jesus would do. And that is this very hypocritical, cruel nation in which we live. And during the Christmas season, had there been a Jesus situation, of which, and I'm sure there was several dozen Jesus situations, where you had a migrant couple trying to gain passage into a land that they thought would be a better place for them to have their baby and start their family and do their thing, only to be persecuted by the state, only to be denied entrance and admission. America don't even think like that. Like, how many Jesuses, how many Jesuses, how many Jesuses got denied and is sitting on the other side of the border right now during the Christmas holiday season? Get me out of this wayward ass fucking country. Anyway,